As 2025 draws to a close, I'm going to be taking a look back at some of the biggest news stories that we've seen in the UK over the past 12 months. Obviously, I can't include every single impactful story we've seen this year on this list because that'd make for a real long video. However, if you feel like I've missed any that should have been on this list, feel free to leave them in the comments down below and we can take a look maybe in a future video. If this is content you would like to see more of, I'm going to be posting a lot more through the next year, so feel free to subscribe down below so you can see more videos like this when I upload them. Back in November 2024, Donald Trump claimed 77 million votes in order to win the next US election. In January this year, he became the 47th President of the United States, while also previously serving as the 45th President of the United States. After this, he began to impose a series of tariffs on different countries across Europe. Not long after he was sworn in president, Donald Trump held a meeting with his cabinet and Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine to talk about peace deals in Russia. During this meeting, Donald Trump accused Volodymyr Zelensky of gambling with World War III and saying he doesn't have the cards in order to defeat Russia in this war. After what was a fiery debate which shocked everyone watching, Zelensky left the White House early without signing the much anticipated minerals deal, the target of that trip to America. During the meeting, Donald Trump told the American press that this is going to make great television. In January, during the winter, when realistically fires shouldn't be starting in America, the LA wildfires spread viciously across the city. The fires were started from severe drought conditions, low humidity, and vegetation that was left from the previous winter. The strong winds also played a part in spreading these fires when they started. A scientific study showed that climate change was a major factor behind the hot and dry weather, which is what ultimately led to the fires being started. Originally, 31 deaths were reported from the cause of the fires. However, in recent months, it's been reported that indirect deaths from the fire could have risen to about 440. On Easter Monday, it was announced that Pope Francis had died at Vatican City. He was 88 years old. He died from a stroke after being hospitalised with a severe respiratory infection, which ultimately led to pneumonia. He served as Pope since 2013. A few weeks after, on May the 8th, Pope Leo was the 267th Pope to be elected. He's also the first US-born Pope. During the football season, where the Lionesses' Euro campaign started to grow, we saw an increase of St George's and Union Jack flags across the UK. The movement, which seemed to have started in Birmingham, has since been claimed by a group called the We Only Warriors, who claim responsibility for starting the trend of putting up all these flags. In a statement, they have said they're a group of proud Englishmen with one goal, and that is to show the rest of the country how proud they are of our history and achievements. Since this group went viral, we've seen more Union Jack and St George's flags being placed in more UK towns and cities, on every lamppost, on every building, and it sparked confusion for the local councils whether or not to keep them up. In the end, most councils decided to keep them there. Keir Starmer himself also praised the efforts of putting the flags up, but told people to make sure it was for patriotic reasons and not for any other. In October, Jihad al-Shami carried out a car ramming and stabbing attack on a synagogue in Heaton Park in Manchester. 2 people were killed during the attack, as well as the attacker, who was shot dead by police. The incident had taken place on Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. The synagogue opened just 2 weeks after the attack, showing the resilience in the Jewish community in Manchester. And since the attack, a 31-year-old man has been arrested at Manchester Airport and will face trial with regards to connection of this attack. Keir Starmer has announced a new digital ID, or as we are nicknaming it, the Brit card, to be rolled out across the UK. This is so that people can electronically prove the right to live and work in the UK. It's announced that you will not be able to have a job without this Brit card, and it has sparked outrage across the country. The government have said it will be an app-based system similar to the NHS app or digital bank cards that you'll be able to store on your phone, and you'll have access to it whenever it's needed. Nearly 3 million people signed the petition to stop the enforcement of the Brit card, saying it will lead to a mass surveillance and control of everyone in the UK. The petition also said no one should live in a state-controlled ID system. What started in mid-2023 and ended in late 2025 was the COVID inquiry that concluded that the UK government did too little too late when it came to responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. The week-long delay led to 23,000 more deaths in the UK that could have been prevented from COVID-19 had the government responded sooner to the effects of the pandemic and put us in a lockdown. They also stated that it was inexcusable that the same mistakes that were made in the first wave of the pandemic during spring in 2020 happened again in the second wave during the autumn and winter of 2020. It was said that the toxic and chaotic culture in the government during this time led to the quality of decision making being made. It also said that ministers didn't properly prioritise the effects it had on children when they lost a lot of education due to school closures, and that the Eat Out to Help Out scheme wasn't backed by any scientific advice. Between 2024 and 2025, it's been revealed that over 350 prisoners have been released early due to an error. The Justice Secretary David Lamia said there's always going to be a human error with these releases until we adopt a completely digitalised system and step away from the pen and paper bookings. The subject of accidental releases became more apparent when Haddush Kebatu was mistakenly released after committing a series of sexual offences between a child and a woman while staying in a migrant hotel in Eppin. Kebatu was since rearrested 2 days later and deported to Ethiopia. Shortly after Kebatu's release, news emerged that 2 other prisoners had also been released in error during the same time. One of them was William Smith, who later handed himself in at the prison, and the other, Brahim Kador Sheriff, was rearrested a few days later. And finally, in more recent news, Donald Trump is suing the BBC for $5 billion, accusing them of defamation after wrongly editing one of his speeches in their programme. Donald Trump has accused the BBC of intentionally and maliciously doing this. In his speech on January 6th, Donald Trump told a Washington DC crowd, "We are going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women." More than 50 minutes later in the same speech, he said, "And we fight like hell." In the Panorama programme, a clip showed him saying, "We are going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be there with you, and we fight like hell." As the second part of the speech was over 50 minutes later, Donald Trump is accusing the BBC of defamation for editing the 2 pieces together to make him look worse than what he already is, which is the defamation law. Donald Trump ordered the BBC to apologise and offer him compensation. The BBC offered the apology, but they did not offer him compensation, and this ultimately led to the head of news and the BBC Director General standing down from their roles. That was 10 of the biggest news stories that hit the headlines in 2025. Which one did you think was the most impactful? And like I said at the start of this video, if there's any that you think was missed on this list that you think should be included, leave them in the comments down below and we can discuss that further, and I may make another video as a part 2 of this to read out more stories that I missed in this video. There will also be a full readable article to what I've said in this video linked in the description down below on my website, so you can take a look at that, plus any more of the articles I've written this year, and so you can follow along for my journey next year. Also, if you want to, you can also subscribe to my newsletter, which is also on my website, where I provide any updates before anywhere else, and all my other social medias are linked on there as well. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you all in the new year.